President Trump has been a month in office and America has not become a totalitarian death state just yet. Regardless, some are still trying to ignite an uprising to throw him out of power. A group called Refuse Fascism says its goal is to, quote, drive the Trump-Pence regime out. They describe it as illegitimate, a cabal of, quote, white supremacists, women haters, science deniers, religious fundamentalist zealots, and warmongers who will eventually start a nuclear war. We're joined now by Sinsara Taylor. She's an organizer with Refuse Fascism. Sinsara, thanks for joining us. So I was reading your manifesto tonight, and you said this: the Trump regime is a fascist regime, no insult or exaggeration, that's what it is. For the future of humanity and the planet, we the people must drive this regime out. So I'm assuming you're not a moderate necessarily, but the obvious question arises, which is, if it's a fascist regime, how are you on this show?
Look, Donald, we're facing an emergency. Humanity is facing an emergency. A fascist regime has seized the reins of power in the most powerful, actually the sole superpower in the world. Trump and Pence are operating out of Hitler's playbook, only they have nuclear weapons. And what refusefascism.org is saying to the world is that while it's beautiful, it's righteous that millions of people have stood up in protest and continue to do so. And by the way, since I know he sometimes watches, President Trump, if you're watching, way more people have protested than were at your Nazi inauguration. But while this is beautiful, this resistance needs to grow, and people need to confront that this is a fascist regime that could drop the hammer and close down. It's working aggressively to close down the space for people to stand up and resist. And so in the name of humanity, 7 billion on this planet, we need to pour into the streets and say no. We refuse to accept a fascist America. We refuse to accept this for the world, and we must drive them out. We need to stay in the streets.
I mean, so many questions come to mind, but the obvious one is this. I always thought that the day somebody got up, a Republican, and said, you know what, we got to focus on jobs, no more pointless wars in the Middle East, and by the way, I'm a secular guy, they would say, you know, it's kind of my kind of Republican. You know, I mean,
a man who campaigned and said, I long for the days when protesters were dragged out on stretchers, who offered to pay the bills of people who assaulted protesters at his rally. Donald Trump is a fascist. That's out of Hitler's playbook. This is a danger to humanity, and yes, it's in its early stages, but people need to rise up and stop it before it is too late.
Okay, so, but I want to get to that. Rise up and stop it. So I'm assuming that, I mean, you're not serious. I mean, this is like play acting for you. If you really thought he was Hitler, if you really believed that he was acting according to, as you said, the playbook of Hitler, then you wouldn't stop with going on a cable show. I mean, you'd go all the way, wouldn't you? I mean, you don't really think that, or you'd be committing acts of violence, right?
I absolutely think. Actually, he's not like Hitler. He has a Twitter feed, he has that ugly orange thing on top of his head, and he has nuclear weapons, the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. And people better wake up, because he is more dangerous than Hitler ever could have been.
But I mean, let's just be real for a second. I know we're on TV, but let's be real. If you really thought that...
Hold on, you implied something, and I want to answer it. You implied that I'm going to do something that's untoward, whatever. I'm calling for mass political protest and resistance, building on what's happened and staying in the streets in the name of humanity. Before the man starts, he asked 3 times, if I have nukes, why can't I use them?
No, I can
this
see
is the mass incineration of human beings on an industrial scale.
I can see that you're spun up here.
Humanity.
But let's just be more specific, because I want to take you seriously. I assume you're being serious, hard as it is to believe, when you use rhetoric like he's Hitler, he's going to incinerate the world.
No, I said nuclear weapons are the mass incineration of human beings on an industrial scale. Oh, sure.
You think he could destroy the world?
Nukes are no big deal for you. I know you like to carry water for the liar-in-chief. I know you like to justify and rationalize the sexual predator-in-chief. But I don't think this is a joke. This is for humanity, and he is dangerous.
But what are you going to do about it, Sinsara? That's my question. Other than like jump around in the street with a sign in your hand, okay, no, and write your little manifestos.
Refusefascism.org has a manifesto, as you said. Refusefascism.org. We say we have 4 things people should do. They should manifest the no. They should protest every outrage and crime. But we have to have a single unifying objective. And the people who are waking up in this country, who are horrified by this man with his finger on the nuclear weapon, we need to recognize that he has to be driven from office through mass political resistance before it is too late. Fascism advances through stages. Shock, awe, violence, and then periods of normalization.
Fascism with political resistance, but whatever, you may not know that.
Actually, it would have taken millions and millions to rise up to stop Hitler. It absolutely would have.
But what do you think?
And it's what people should have done.
Okay, may I ask you a real question?
It is shameful for you to dismiss this.
But hold on, I know it's shameful, but let me ask you this.
It's funny to you.
Question. So the
no, because I know you love to carry water for this criminal, this war criminal wannabe in chief.
Right.
He's itching.
Hold on.
You find that as petty matter?
There were 62...
Tucker, you find that petty? You find that a petty concern that he wants to...
I know that you're very petty, but I'm trying to ask you a real question.
Nuclear weapons are as serious as you can be.
I just want to ask you... Okay, let me ask you one last question, okay? 62 million people voted for Trump, and disproportionately they were people at the lower end of the income scale. They were actually. They were middle class and below, mostly. Opposed to Trump were, I don't know, the hedge fund managers and privileged people like you. Did you ever think to yourself, like, why is the
Can I tell you something?
class,
He lost the popular vote. He lost the popular vote, and no election, fair or fraudulent, no election, fair or fraudulent, can justify ripping up the rule of law, undermining the courts, threatening and shutting down the press.
You're saying that you should throw a duly elected president out of office.
No, I'm saying people should resist.
Law.
Yes, that's what he means when he says so-called judge. That's what he means when he fires an attorney general who disagrees with his laws.
What I want to do is get to how you think.
What you want to do is normalize fascism. Right. What you want to do is try to caricature and dismiss people who are telling the truth.
For me. Thanks, though.
The votes are 10 votes, Donald J. Trump.
You stole that! You're pathetic! You don't deserve to be in America! Shame! You refuse to want to! This is my America! This is my America! My America! Take me out if you must! This is my America! You have sold us out! Listen to your heart! Listen to the facts! Listen to all of it! Can I take my things with me? Take me out! I don't care!
Say this way.
You just
You tell me when this is done. I don't think it's going to break down. Hillary, you're fired. Fired.
Everybody's always blaming me for everything.
Now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency.
All the boys for Trump yelling MAGA. All the girls for Trump yelling MAGA. All the veterans for Trump yelling MAGA. Stand up, get the MAGA yelling louder. Make America great again. Make America great again.
Anything to aid his campaign. I mean, I don't support him.
No, I know.
Make sure you get that on camera, right? No, but you don't get that interview.
That's not what bigotry means.
You just get that on camera.
That's
right?
not what bigotry means.
Media wants to
That's not what bigotry means.
Why don't you get it on camera?
Yourself.
Why don't you get it on camera instead of editing?
Hey, I'll tell you what.
Instead of editing his $1 million a month anonymous Feed the Children donation. Why don't you get that on camera?
Why don't you wait?
Why don't you get on camera that he recruited immigrants to help him build towers so he could put them up? Oh, you don't get that on camera, right? This is what you get on camera. This is what you get on camera, right? And you edit it accordingly. You wait until they bait him, and then you edit it, right? You don't include the fact that we have an awesome president now who took a step down from unappreciative motherfuckers. Okay? Unappreciative.
What's your name? So I've got it.
None of your damn. Oh, you'll edit it. You'll edit it and portray it as something totally different than what it really is, right? So you're not getting my name. You're getting a you. You don't give it. You don't give it as it really is. You don't give it or portray it as it really is. A good man with a good, awesome heart that traveled the world feeding the kids. You
President Trump has had a very good week on foreign policy, a very good week on foreign policy. First of all, there was the removal of the United States from the Iran deal, which was, as I've said many times, a very strong move, a useful move. Also, President Trump was able to bring home 3 American citizens who had been held captive in North Korea. They thanked him for it. All of this very good for President Trump. And Democrats are sort of baffled by all of this. They don't understand, why is it that Donald Trump, this rube, this supposed idiot, why is it that his foreign policy seems to be achieving greater results than Barack Obama's awful foreign policy, which was based very much on the idea of a world working together where we reach out our hand, an open hand, and we never threaten. No, we never threaten. If we do threaten, we don't really mean it, like in Syria. But instead, what we really should do is we should all just hug it out. Why is it that Donald Trump's view is working better? And why does it resonate more with Americans? Why is it? You can see the puzzlement on the faces of the folks in the media. They just cannot understand why it is that Donald Trump seems to be succeeding in this way. The latest indicator comes courtesy of NBC's Haley Jackson. So Haley Jackson was covering President Trump's photo op with the Koreans, with the American citizens in North Korea who'd been released. And Trump went to meet them on the tarmac at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then he spoke about it. And watch NBC's coverage here, because it truly is amazing. When you juxtapose this coverage with the coverage of the media at Bo Bergdahl's release back to the United States by ISIS, you recall that Bo Bergdahl had been taken prisoner, rather, by al-Qaeda, and you recall that the president of the United States traded 5 top terrorists for Bo Bergdahl, who was in fact a traitor. Right? It turns out that he was being tried for desertion. And Bo Bergdahl, this was treated as a wonderful thing. You know, Barack Obama had a photo op in the Rose Garden with Bo Bergdahl's parents, talking about how wonderful it was to bring Bo Bergdahl home, this American hero, bringing him home. Obama didn't call him a hero. Other members of his administration did. And the media covered this straight. Right? They covered it. Look at what Barack Obama did. That's just so magnificent. It's so wonderful. Well, there's no question that these particular American citizens were not, in fact, deserters from the American military, and we didn't have to trade terrorists to get them back. But watch NBC's coverage. Here's Haley Jackson.
But what was striking was that this was, listen, Donald Trump's a former reality show producer. This was a staged production meant for television, meant for the cameras, meant to be shown and seen here in this country and around the world. You had floodlights lighting up this 30 by 50-foot American flag hanging in between 2 ladder trucks as the plane carrying these men rolled in. This moment when the president and first lady holding hands went up the stairs, spending 6 minutes in private conversation, and then unexpectedly, because we didn't think that was going to happen, unexpectedly coming over with these men and taking a number of questions from reporters who had gathered around in front, yelling questions.
Okay, look at that. Look at that photo op, that staged photo op. How terrible that photo op. You mean like the exact photo op that Barack Obama did in the Rose Garden with Bo Bergdahl's parents to announce the return of a deserter in exchange for terrorists? You mean like that photo op that the media didn't call a photo op? And if you'd said it was a photo op, no, you were not allowed to say it was a photo op. It was bad to say that it was a photo op. Because obviously, listen, the president of the United States at that point, he was well-deserving of a victory lap. Listen, are these all photo ops? Of course they're photo ops. Of course it's a photo op. When President Trump goes on the tarmac to meet with people at 2 a.m., that's a photo op. Okay, if I were to meet somebody at 2 a.m., the only reason I would do that is for a photo op. I'm not even sure I would meet members of my family at 2 a.m. on a tarmac. I mean, it's really early in the morning. I need my sleep. But for the media to critique this by saying, oh, look at Trump, he's a reality show producer. This is what's so funny. The media can't understand how a reality TV guy became president of the United States because he was the second reality TV guy to become president of the United States. The first was Barack Obama. All of these photo ops, all this scripted nonsense, it existed for Barack Obama too. The media just refused to call it out. And then there's John Brennan. John Brennan is former CIA director under Barack Obama, and he says that Kim Jong-un has obviously duped President Trump. How does he know that Kim Jong-un has duped President Trump? Well, he doesn't. But he was there when Barack Obama was being duped by the Iranians. He was there when North Korea was duping Barack Obama. But apparently he knows better. He knows now that Donald Trump was duped by the North Koreans. How does he know? Because Donald Trump got to have a photo op. And if he got a photo op, that means that Trump must have given up something awful in exchange.
So I think he is very smartly and very masterfully, Kim Jong-un, escalated and saber-rattled so that he could then switch and appear much more accommodating and present a more peaceful face. And so now we've gone from Mr. Trump calling him Rocket Man and Sick Puppy to honorable and nice.
Okay, well, did it ever occur to John Brennan that Donald Trump does that as a fig leaf for his actual policy? Donald Trump says a lot of things. And again, you could put this on Donald Trump's epitaph. The dude said a lot of stuff. Donald Trump says a lot of things. But the question is what he actually does. And this is what the American people are starting to recognize about President Trump, that despite, maybe because of all the pyrotechnics, because of all the craziness, it is sometimes possible to ignore all of the good things that are happening. And you can see that the folks over on MSNBC don't understand this. I do appreciate the silliness of the host there, who refers to Kim Jong-un as Un. That's not the way that Korean names work. His name is Kim, right? His last name is Kim. But in any case, John Brennan, making the case that Donald Trump is being duped by the North Koreans with no evidence that he's actually being duped by the North Koreans to this point, other than Donald Trump said something on a tarmac about these people being treated very nicely by Kim Jong-un, which obviously was untrue. Trump says a lot of stuff, right? File that one under Trump says a lot of stuff. But for a guy who's a dupe, he seems to be doing pretty decently at this, and at least he's surrounding himself with people who are certainly not being duped. Now, speaking of Democrats who say that Trump is being duped, Nancy Pelosi, she of the moving dentures, she suggested that President Trump had failed in his oath to protect and defend the United States by pulling out of the Iran deal.
Very, very sad. We take an oath to protect and defend. That is our first responsibility. I do not think the president is honoring that oath by what he did.
Well, okay, so he's not honoring his oath. What exactly is the oath that he's not honoring? You mean the oath to uphold the Constitution, which was openly breached by pushing the Iran deal? The Iran deal was not a treaty. The Iran deal was an executive agreement between Barack Obama and the Iranian government. It was not approved by the Senate. In order for a treaty to be approved by the Senate, you need at least 60 votes to approve that treaty in the Senate. It did not get 60 votes in the Senate. It had a 21% approval rating among the American public at the time that it was passed. And John Podhoretz made a great point over a commentary. He said one of the reasons that the Democrats were so attached to the Iran deal is because they felt it was a great triumph of them over the public. It was their ability to steamroll everybody and push through a deal that everyone thought was garbage that made them celebrate it. They thought it was a real demonstration of their power, of their will, of their ability to cram down things the American people didn't want on a stupid, unwilling American public. But Donald Trump breached some sort of constitutional duty by pulling out of a deal with a terrorist nation? Donald Trump did that? Or is it Barack Obama breaching his constitutional duty to defend the United States by signing a deal with a regime that has killed American soldiers? Okay, let's be clear about this. During the Iraq War, there were Iran-backed militias that were murdering American soldiers and wounding American soldiers. There's a lot of IEDs set by Iranian troops, produced in Iran, that were used to maim American troops. Barack Obama signed a deal with those people and got nothing in return. 0 things in return. But Donald Trump is the one who's a dupe? Donald Trump is the one who's a fool? There's a reason why the American people are trusting Republicans more on foreign policy these days than they trust Democrats. And part of that is because the American people, when it comes to foreign policy, they're not as sanguine about the possibilities of a beautiful world as Democrats are. Democrats seem to always believe that if we are just nice to everyone else will be nice to us. That is not true. You're nice to everybody else until they are mean to you. At that point, you clock them. That's an American foreign policy that I think that the American people agree with. Another demonstration of this, obviously, is the Democrats' newfound opposition to Gina Haspel. Gina Haspel, of course, is the CIA nominee to be director, first female director in the history of the CIA. And Democrats are just fighting mad about this. How could Gina Haspel even be considered, considering that she worked at the CIA at a time when the CIA was engaged in waterboarding of terrorists? How could they possibly do all of this? Now, they were totally fine when John Brennan was at CIA. Didn't matter that John Brennan worked at the CIA at the time when waterboarding had been approved. It didn't matter that half the people at the CIA worked at the CIA at the time when waterboarding was used. But now, even the remote idea that waterboarding was a necessary evil, that it was something that we had to do, but it did not constitute formal torture, that has been thrown out. We can't, no, if you say this, it makes you a cruel, inhumane, bad person. Now, John McCain has said some of these same things about waterboarding, but I have a little more sympathy for John McCain saying them, considering the man was actually tortured in custody for 7 years. I have a little more sympathy hearing that from John McCain, who was tortured for no reason, legitimately no reason, other than to try and break him. I have more sympathy for that position from McCain than I do from Dianne Feinstein, who knows better than to assume the best about people like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. One of the things that was hilarious this week is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was one of the masterminds of 9/11. There were suggestions that he was going to be allowed to testify against Gina Haspel, that they were going to bring an actual terrorist responsible for 9/11 out of jail so that he could talk about the horrors he experienced at the hands of Gina Haspel. If you want to make Gina Haspel president of the United States, that is the best way to do that. Seriously, bring a terrorist out there to talk about how Gina Haspel was mean to him. Okay, I would vote for her for president after hearing that, because Khalid Sheikh Mohammed deserved every little bit of everything that he got. But beyond that, he also gave us a lot of actionable intelligence because we waterboarded him.
At the time you were arrested, you were served with a DS-367 temporary driver's license. It's good for 30 days, but if you don't act within 10 days, at the end of those 30 days, your license will be suspended. It's important for your lawyer to contact the DMV for you. Set up a driver's license administrative hearing so that your license does not go into suspension. That's something here at Bramer Law we do for you.
Patriot Bail Bonds has the best customer service in Bakersfield. Patriot has more 5-star ratings than any bail company in Kern County. Plus, we're fast and affordable. If you run into the law, make Patriot Bail Bonds your first call. That's right, one call, that's all.
If you're in jail, call Patriot Bail.
A lot of people with a penis get urine all over the toilets, and so they're going to be installing urinals in the women's bathroom for the transgender women who still have a penis but identify as a woman, just to help feel more accommodating for them.
I'm cool with that. Everybody should be comfortable, you know?
You gotta just let people do what they want to do. It's like the incest thing, not into it, but if people are, that's fine with me. It doesn't affect me. I don't want them to have kids because, you know, there's some biologically like messed up stuff, possibly.
So you would approve of incest marriage then?
I mean, sure. Why not?
So there's nothing wrong with a brother and a sister having sexual relations with each other?
Not if they're not gonna have kids.
Totally normal?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, just checking. Do you think the 10% tax break for black people is enough?
Well, it's a start.
It's a start.
It's a start, and I believe that we could go to 15% and then maybe work on some of the other issues that are going on. But I think it's a great gesture for
black people,
and the country.
Okay.
To unify us and to be together and think as one.
Make us more equal.
Yeah, exactly. And again,
taxing white people more.
We need to be more as oneness.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it's Hispanic, Asian, American, African American, it doesn't matter. Across the board.
Giving a certain race a lower tax bracket, that'll accomplish that goal.
It will help a lot. It really will. Our heart's in the right place. The government's heart is in the right place.
It's in the right place.
Yeah.
In order to fight sexism and income inequality, we're trying to implement the male privilege tax. We just tax men at a slightly higher rate than the women, but we still need a few more signatures to get that on the ballot. Print, birth date, and a signature. Obviously, to fight sexism in this new world order, a male privilege tax is the final phase, or one of the next steps to fight sexism. I appreciate you supporting that.
The program is called White Privilege Tax?
The White Privilege Tax, just to help out with the income in the minority communities.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I
They
agree.
taught you about white privilege in college, right?
Yes. I think, we should definitely be aware of what white privilege is, redistribute to the minorities.
Redistribute white people's income.
I absolutely agree, yes.
That's an agree. Okay.
Damn
were just
straight.
checking. And you think that would be good for the communities?
Yeah, I
white
think it'd be
privilege
good.
tax?
I think it'd be good for the community if it's done the right way. That's all. That's the main
Do the white
thing.
privilege tax the right way?
It's got to be done the right way.
Done the right way.
Yeah.
Now Mount Rushmore is being taken down, deconstructed. Do you think that's the right decision? Should we tear down the racist, white supremacist Mount Rushmore monument to continue eradicating these symbols of racism?
Absolutely. Racism is bullshit, as well as gay marriage not being legalized. It's now legal in 50 states, and I think the racism thing is...
Do you think maybe we should replace Mount Rushmore with some...
Positive, historic...
With some homosexuals?
Possibly, or even anti-racist, anything.
Okay. Congress has issued a couple designs for a new American flag, just because the old flag, a lot of people think it kind of still represents racism like the Confederate flag does. So a lot of Black Lives Matter have been calling for a new American flag. So the Congress has issued a couple possible new designs for the New World Order. Do you think it's time we issue a new American flag for the new World Order?
Yeah. Just for a new beginning.
For a new beginning for America?
Yeah.
The old Stars and Stripes, a little too offensive, you think?
Yeah, give it a good change, just like other countries. Okay.
So maybe after the revolution, a new American flag. You think after the the revolution?
Yeah, we might have a better start.
You think helping to end women's suffrage is a good cause for them to be a part of?
Oh, yeah.
Anything Beyonce can do to end women's suffrage probably will help out. You think?
Yeah, I think she'd be good with that too, because everybody looks up to her. So I think she'd do good in something like that.
And with ending the women's suffrage, probably about time we do that with the way things are going, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be soon.
To help the transgender community, they're going to be installing 1 urinal per women's bathroom at the public facilities and in the public schools. Just get people's comments to this historic news.
I think it's awesome. Like
to make sure everybody feels welcome,
comfortable, and yeah.
So that the transgender women who still have a penis can use the proper facilities in the women's bathroom without getting pee all over the seats for the other women.
Right.
Progressivism.
Yeah, definitely.
It's probably a little overdue, some people are saying. Should have been done, but it's the next phase for freedom.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it's really, really awesome.
Over in America, Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton is yet again facing some difficult questions over her handling of classified material while she was Secretary of State. With more on that, here's Yanni Chikian.
Polls nationwide show that the majority of Americans do not trust Hillary Clinton, and one of the reasons for it was exposed during the Commander-in-Chief Forum this Wednesday. Lieutenant John Lester told Hillary Clinton that he held a top-secret security clearance and had access to highly sensitive information.
Had I communicated this information not following prescribed protocols, I would have been prosecuted and imprisoned. And how can you expect those, such as myself, who were and are entrusted with America's most sensitive information, to have any confidence in your leadership as president when you clearly corrupted our national security?
Here's Hillary Clinton's response.
I have a lot of experience dealing with classified material, starting when I was on the Senate Armed Services Committee, going into the 4 years as Secretary of State. Classified material has a header which says top secret, secret, confidential, nothing. And I will repeat this, and this is verified in the report by the Department of Justice. None of the emails sent or received by me had such a header.
This does not quite match what the FBI said. Their investigation revealed that Hillary Clinton had ignored classification markings in her emails. Letter C in parentheses in the body of an email is used to designate a specific paragraph as containing classified information. The FBI notes show when asked if Hillary Clinton knew what C markings meant in her emails, she told the FBI she thought it was to organize messages in alphabetical order. This coming from someone who claims to have had a lot of experience dealing with classified material has surprised many. In one chain of emails from 2011, when Secretary Clinton's aide had trouble sending certain information through secure means, she asked him to, quote, turn into non-paper with no identifying heading and send non-secure. End quote. Secretary Clinton went on to use a private server to send and receive highly sensitive information. Her team then deleted thousands of emails, and the FBI was unable to recover them. But based on the emails that they did recover, the FBI concluded that Secretary Clinton was extremely careless with classified information, but decided that no reasonable prosecutor would pursue such a case.
Jan Chikian reporting there. Well, former US diplomat Jim Jutras does claim that the FBI is deliberately covering up the Clinton email scandal.
It's, in a word, what we call corruption. What we do know is this, is that Secretary Clinton has engaged in behavior that is criminal, that anybody else would be going to jail for, and she's been lying about it.
There was nothing marked classified on my emails, either sent or received.
Secretary Clinton said she never sent or received any classified information over her private email. Was that true?
Our investigation found that there was classified information sent.
So it was not true.
The FBI is releasing information in this very strange pattern, especially releasing it at times, for example, just before a holiday weekend, when very few people would see it. The FBI is going out of its way to avoid reaching that conclusion that they, for some reason, whether it's politically motivated or whether FBI Director Comey simply does not want to decide the election on the basis of a law enforcement decision. If she wins, she will be free of these charges, and everybody will know that it doesn't matter, that she has a privilege.
You know, the mythology is that the Republicans have taken over the red states, but it's not true. The reality is the Democrats have lost to those states, and they've lost them by not running as real Democrats. That's my big takeaway from Alec McGillis's fascinating look into the biggest political mystery of our time: why predominantly poor and previously Democratic-leaning states now vote Republican. There are a lot of theories as to why this has happened. One of the most famous comes from Thomas Frank, who argued in his book, What's the Matter with Kansas?, that poor white people vote Republican because Republicans have duped them into caring about social issues like abortion, guns, and gay marriage. And there's a lot to be said for that line of analysis. But Alec McGillis has a different theory. As he explains in that piece for ProPublica, the problem isn't that people who should vote Democratic vote Republican. No, the problem is, quote, the people who most rely on the safety net programs secured by Democrats are, by and large, not voting, period. To put it in less wonky terms, Democrats are losing out to Republicans in what have become red states because the people who should vote for Democrats aren't showing up. They're not voting whatsoever. A great example of this, according to McGillis, is Pike County, Kentucky, which is both a place where 18% of households get some form of government assistance and a place where Kentucky Governor-elect and Tea Party favorite Matt Bevin just won 55% of the vote. All logic suggests that Pike County should have gone Democratic. And it used to do so pretty much every election. But 30% fewer people voted in the county this month than they did in 2003. 11,223 voters in a county of 63,000 potential voters, far below that county's tally of food stamp recipients, which was more than 17,000 in 2012. If all of Pike County's 17,000 food stamp recipients, just them, had come out to vote, we could now be talking about how that county was a Democratic stronghold in a sea of red. But it didn't happen. And now we're left with that same old problem of a county, and a state for that matter, that should go Democratic, but instead falls to the Republicans. The solution is pretty similar in one other former Democratic shoo-in state like West Virginia, or in Arkansas and Tennessee, where pretty much no one comes out to vote except white, middle, and upper class Republicans. Not surprisingly, West Virginia, Arkansas, and Tennessee are also states that have now flipped red after years of going blue, again because Democrats are not showing up to vote. All of this, of course, raises the question, why are poor people, especially poor white people in red states, not showing up to vote? This is obviously a complex question with a complex answer, but to me at least there's one really big reason why. It's because with the exception of a few people like Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, and Al Franken, Democrats don't run as Democrats anymore. Ever since the centrists, aka corporatist New Democrats, the Democratic Leadership Council, the DLC, staged their coup back in the late 1980s and recruited Governor Bill Clinton, most Democrats have run for office and governed as Republicans light. Instead of pushing true progressive values and populist economics, they call for welfare reform. They talk about how cutting Social Security might be a good idea, and they support awful trade deals like NAFTA, the TPP. Oh, and if that wasn't bad enough, they also take in millions of dollars in donations from the fat cats on Wall Street, Big Pharma, and the so-called defense industry. Aside from just adopting Republican talking points, you really couldn't ask for a better way to alienate the poor, people who already have every reason to be alienated from the political process. The takeaway here? Easy. It's time for Democrats to embrace and run on their party's core values, the kind of values represented by people like Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Lyndon Johnson, and Bernie Sanders, who up until recently, by the way, didn't even call himself a Democrat. It's the only way Democrats can hope to win elections in red states again. It's really that simple, because as Harry Truman once said, given a choice between a Republican and a Democrat who acts like a Republican, the voters will pick the Republican every time. It's time for the Democratic Party to stop promoting Democrats who act like Republicans and return to the progressive roots and values laid out and championed by truly progressive presidents like FDR.
I'm a fat girl at heart. I love Chick-fil-A. I do. I am unashamed about the fact that because it is 1 block from my house, I eat it probably twice a week. But they are on my list right now, and you do not want to be on my list. I just got home from the Hollywood Chick-fil-A drive-thru to find out that they did not include the 4 Chick-fil-A sauces that I requested with my order. I'm very displeased. Chick-fil-A, you better fix this because my stockpile of liquid gold is diminishing. But to my story, Chick-fil-A is back in the news in a supporting role capacity. This is just so utterly ridiculous. Anyway, Jack Dorsey was ripped on social media. Jack Dorsey, who is the CEO of the shadow banning social media platform Twitter, and was digitally beaten to a pulp after he tweeted a screenshot of his Chick-fil-A purchase. Now, as many of you know, Chick-fil-A is a Christian company founded by Truett Cathy and was founded on Christian principles. They are also closed on Sunday, as it states on their website. Our founder, Truett Cathy, made the decision to close on Sunday in 1946 when he opened his first restaurant in Hapeville, Georgia. Having worked 7 days a week in restaurants open 24 hours, Truett saw the importance of closing on Sundays so that he and his employees could set aside one day to rest and worship if they choose, a practice we uphold today. Now, the originator of the chicken sandwich became a target of the left in 2012 when Truett's son, Dan Cathy, who is now the CEO, stated that he personally supports the idea of marriage being exclusively between a man and a woman as described in the Bible. Now, he's a Christian, so it really wasn't a shock that he feels this way. I think what the left was so enraged over was the fact that Dan Cathy is so bold and courageous in his faith, and that ticks off people suffering from mental problems because, you know, that's the left. It's classic psychological projection. Dan Cathy and his company serve all people regardless of their belief, race, creed, sexual orientation, or gender. I say it's psychological projection because the very people who ripped him, calling him a bigot and a homophobe, are the same people who are so close-minded to the beliefs of others. So we have to be tolerant of you, but you don't have to be tolerant of us. Okay, got it. Anyway, that whole controversy did not hinder the success of the company, as they now have grown to be, as reported by the ultra-liberal Huffington Post, America's favorite fast food restaurant. In an annual survey conducted by the American Customer Satisfaction Index, Chick-fil-A beat out all other fast food restaurant chains 2 years in a row, so clearly they're not hurting. And even some liberals can't deny the buttery, crispy goodness of a Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich or a 12-count nugget. As I was saying, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey posted a screenshot of the savings he received using the Chick-fil-A app. He did this, wait for it, on Pride weekend here in LA during Pride month. Oh my God. And boy, did he find out how the left not only likes to eat chicken, they will eat their own in a heartbeat if you step out of line. Here are just a few of the Twitter reactions. At Sarah Burris said this, hate chicken never tasted so homophobic. Okay, so Chick-fil-A's policy of serving everyone, no matter their belief, race, creed, sexual orientation, or gender, displays how hateful they are? See how idiotic these people are? At the Adam Goldman tweeted this. On behalf of the whole LGBTQ community, Jack, kindly boost your head out of your judging by this next tweet I'm going to read, Adam Goldman, I don't think you're the official mouthpiece for the whole LGBTQ community. At Perry Richardson VA tweeted this. At Jack, don't give in to these people and their complaints. I'm gay and I love Chick-fil-A. Go on and eat that Chick-fil-A and post as much as you want about it. Also, I watched a stand-up not long ago by the very large lesbian comedian Fortune Feimster. I only mention her size because it makes it funnier that during her stand-up, she said something to the effect of, there's only one time when being gay was hard for me, and that was when the gay community declared war against Chick-fil-A, because here's the deal, people, I'm fat first and lesbian second. So, at the end of the day, poor Jack Dorsey was so beaten down by the maniacal Chick-fil-A hating left that he issued an apology and said he was wrong for eating at Chick-fil-A. On CNN Sunday, when anchor Soledad O'Brien pointed out that it was an interesting company to boost on Twitter during Pride Month, he replied, "You're right, completely forgot about their background." Wait, aren't we not supposed to judge people based on their background? This all gets so confusing, liberals. You keep changing the rules on us. How are we ever going to march in line like good little socialist soldiers when we don't know what the formation is? Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Amanda Head for The Rebel. If you enjoyed my commentary and opinions, we have an unlimited supply of them here at The Rebel, so subscribe to our premium content at www.therebel.media/shows. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter for all of our latest news, and download our app for The Rebel Media on the App Store. That way you will have easy and immediate access to all of our latest videos and your favorite Rebel shows. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Amanda Head for The Rebel.